What if I told you that starting next year, you could save over $200 every time you're late on a credit card payment? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just announced a rule that slashes typical late fees from $32 down to just $8. But here's the catch. Banks are already fighting back, and if you don't know how this works, you might not get the savings you deserve. Let's start with the numbers because they're staggering. Right now, if you're late on a credit card payment, you're typically hit with a $32 fee. Multiply that by the average American who's late about 7 times a year, and you're looking at over $220 in fees annually. But starting in April 2026, that $32 fee drops to just $8. That's a 75% reduction mandated by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This isn't some theoretical change. It affects 45 million consumers, according to the CFPB's own estimates. Major news outlets have been covering this since the April announcement, but most personal finance channels haven't dug into the practical implications. That's where we come in. Because while the rules sound simple, the implementation won't be. Here's what's actually changing. The CFPB's rule caps the late fee at $8 for most credit card issuers. Previously, they could charge up to $32 for the first late payment and even more for subsequent ones. The new rule also eliminates the automatic annual inflation adjustment that let banks raise these fees every year without notice. But, and this is critical, banks are already pushing back hard. Industry groups have filed lawsuits claiming the CFPB overstepped its authority. Some banks might try to find loopholes, like increasing other fees or changing terms to compensate. Others might drag their feet implementing the change. So you can't just assume you'll automatically get the $8 fee come April. So how do you make sure you benefit? First, mark your calendar for April 1st, 2026. That's when the rule is scheduled to take effect. Second, review your credit card terms around that time. Look for any communications from your bank about fee changes. If you see a late fee higher than $8 after April 1st, that's a red flag. What if your bank tries to charge more than $8? You have rights. The CFPB rule is a federal regulation, not a suggestion. If a bank violates it, you can file a complaint directly with the CFPB through their website. Document everything, save statements, take screenshots, and here's a pro tip. Sometimes just mentioning the CFPB in a customer service call can get fees waived. Now let's talk strategy. Even with lower late fees, being late still hurts your credit score and can trigger penalty APRs. So the best move is still to avoid late payments altogether. Set up auto pay for at least the minimum payment. Put payment due dates in your phone calendar with alerts. But if you do slip up, at least now the financial penalty won't be as brutal. Here's what makes this rule particularly powerful for people rebuilding credit. If you have a lower credit score and are working on improvement, those $32 fees could derail your progress. $8 is much more manageable. This levels the playing field somewhat for the 45 million consumers who occasionally miss payments. But stay vigilant. Banks might get creative. Some could introduce new administrative fees or reduce rewards to make up for lost revenue. Watch your statements closely in 2026. And remember, this rule applies to most consumer credit cards, but there are exceptions for very small issuers and certain business cards. Check your specific card's terms. So here's your action plan. First, understand that this change is coming in April 2026. Second, don't assume automatic compliance. Check your statements. Third, know your rights and how to file a CFPB complaint if needed. And fourth, use this as motivation to improve your payment habits overall, because on-time payments are still king for your credit score. So what's your biggest question about this new late fee rule? Have you been hit with $32 fees that made it harder to pay down debt? Drop a comment below. I read every single one and might feature your question in a follow-up video. And if you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss our deep dives into credit changes that actually affect your wallet.